Hey everybody, Jeremy Siskett here, the author of Playing Solo Jazz Piano and the Jazz Piano Fundamental Series. And look at this dapper man. Look at this dapper guy. This is Tony Kieraldo. Hi Tony, great to see you.
Great to see you, Jeremy.
And Tony is a pianist who I greatly admire, who you might have heard touring with Postmodern Jukebox, which you've been doing for a long time, right?
Yeah, about 5 years or so now, 5 or 6 years, yeah.
Yeah. And Tony has a very cool project that I've gotten to see a little bit of. Golden Keys, the music of James Bond reimagined, and reimagined specifically as ragtime piano, right?
Pretty much ragtime, bluesy, yeah, ragtime stride piano. I wouldn't say necessarily quote unquote ragtime, but stride, yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. And right now, just for the next few days, doing a crowdfunding Indiegogo campaign to raise money to pay the cost of master, mix, produce the album. He's got several really well-known vocalists. I think a lot of who you work with through Postmodern Jukebox, like Casey Abrams, like Tawanda. So it's going to be an exciting album. Do you want to tell us a little bit about how this came to pass? Kind of two things that don't necessarily go together.
Totally, yeah. Well, I'm a pianist and I'm also kind of nerdy. And during the pandemic, I got into watching James Bond movies and was thinking, wow, that'd be kind of really nerdy and cool to arrange these for ragtime piano. So I started off watching the movies and then going through kind of each song and notated them and arranged them for stride, blues, ragtime piano. So that's where it started, and I did maybe 12 or 14 or 15 of the songs during 2020, and that's pretty much the genesis of where it all started from, being a James Bond fan from growing up and loving the music and being a pianist. So that's where they all kind of came together.
Amazing. It's so fun. I want to get, I've got a lot of questions, but I want to get into the music like more than anything. So
Yep.
you sent me some of the arrangements.
Yep.
And suggested that we start with the James Bond theme itself. Maybe could you play us a little bit, and then we'll talk about it. Is that okay?
Totally. Yeah, I'm going to go over to this. I'm in a house with two pianos right now, so fortunate. I have a Steinway Grand and a Steinway Spinet. Poor me.
Good place to be.
Right? So this is the James Bond theme. I arranged it a little differently than what you have there, but I'm going to start what the version that you have. So do you want me to just play the first little bit?
Yeah, that'd be
Or-
wonderful.
Great. Okay. So we're going to stop
Oh
right
man,
now.
I really wanted to hear the next part with those 16
Oh, you want the
notes.
next
Wait,
part?
can
Here
you
we
give us
go.
can you give us a taste?
It keeps
That's so
going.
killing, Tony. I
Thank
love
you.
that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Man, yeah, and I was trying to read through a little bit before we got started, and it's like it's hard. There's a lot of things that you're holding and then moving something in the same hand.
Yeah.
It's really tricky what you did, but like just so fun, and it still captures the feeling of the original.
Cool. Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you.
Of course. So yeah, you were gonna walk us through. I think like this is such a great place to learn a little bit about basic stride piano because you're going through all these different iterations of the same left-hand accompaniment in the same 12 or the first 12 or 16 bars. Do you want to walk us through this arrangement a little bit?
Absolutely. I think the biggest challenge in doing these is taking iconic song that's known for its orchestral, nature and all of that power that it has, and breaking that down to, essentially 10 fingers, and the piano. So I really I wanted to break it down to kind of the basic elements of it. So that first 4 lines are basically just that iconic, the 5, sharp 5, 6. That's that theme in James Bond. Da, da, da,
Right.
da. Have that be the melody. So breaking down just in octaves.
So it's a little different actually than the one you sent me, because we have B, E, C, B. Like,
Oh,
we have the
yeah,
E
okay. You know what? You're right.
Did you change it?
No. I think sometimes I play it in ways, and I just, like, when you kind of like blank and you don't proofread something, and then you just get in the habit of not actually reading what you wrote.
Absolutely.
That's what I just did. So I thank you for the correction. So yeah, it is that hitting that root. So, and then I have that also.
But that's so interesting. Like, I would have flipped it. I would have gone, or
right.
like I would have put the E on bottoms. But
Right.
I like it so much more mysterious and orchestral the way that you did it.
Thanks. I tried to keep that, so like having that tension of this to where like it finally like lands. So when you hit that bass, which doesn't really happen until like just about where I stopped on the 3rd page, where it's really. So you really it really builds that tension to like halfway through the arrangement, where then it anchors with that root. So I tried to build that tension for as long as I could without being annoying, I guess. So yeah, I have that, and I have a kind of counter melody of that 5, sharp 5, 6 going in half notes in the right hand, which is a fun kind of exercise.
What I think is super interesting, like to people studying stride piano, is that like we think, maybe you've seen Scott Joplin, and it's like, okay, it's an octave on bottom and then a 3-note chord. Or if you've studied more jazz stride piano, it's like maybe it's a 10th on bottom and a 4-note chord. But you're starting from this really bare bones, just 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. It's such a nice place to start.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I actually, in reading your book, I love the part where you, and I forgot which book it was, but about stride and how you broke it down into different ways in which to play. So it's, not just root, chord, 5 chord, root chord, but there's so many different ways. So I think I kind of took a little page from you in kind of breaking it down in that way.
Great. Yeah, cool. Should we move on to the second system then and how it develops?
Sure. Yeah. So that first system is really bare boned. And then the melody comes in. So trying to play that guitar while also keeping this counter melody going with your thumb in the right hand.
It's hard.
Yeah.
A little tricky.
So then I have just adding a little bit more to that bass line. So I'm just adding the 3rd really of the chord. Octaves, just to give it a little bit more cushion, a little more power. Then trying to starting to add a little bit more chordal stuff. And then you have the 10th. I have small hands, so like a C 10th is good for me, and like D minor, but anything more than that, for you pianists with smaller hands, you can always roll that chord or just continue with the octaves,
Yeah. Can we pause there? Because that is a question that my students pepper me with so much. People get so mad when I play a 10th and they're like, I have small hands. What am I supposed to do? So let's talk about these rolls, if you don't mind. I'm genuinely curious to pick your brain. So how do you think about them rhythmically? If you're rolling 3 notes, like which note does a note land on the beat, or is it just kind of like a blah 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 wherever it happens?
For me, it's an anticipation. So I have the downbeat hitting the end of where it is. So it's like, brum. It's like boom, bum, brum, instead of brum.
So that, and you're always rolling from bottom to top.
Yeah, on these chords, I'm. So I mean, I could really notate that as like a 16th note into, but. For visual sake and whatnot, the way that I'll play those is I generally will, in this arrangement, roll from bottom quick to, where that kind of off on that part.
Cool. And you don't pedal it. You don't feel like we need to hear everything exactly together, or you feel like it kind of rings enough that we do hear everything together.
Yeah, not in this too, because I'm playing that guitar line, that surf guitar line. So if I'm pedaling, unless I'm using the middle pedal and really get like which this piano does not have, and a lot of pianos and keyboards don't have the middle, which is a whole other technique that I am not well versed in. Yeah. For this arrangement, I don't. Yeah.
Tony, I just want to tell you that you've made me very happy, because this is exactly what I tell my students. I tell them put the top note right on the beat.
Really?
I think like that's the biggest mistake that people make, is that they just forget about rhythm when they start rolling, and it just it becomes disorienting, because are you starting on the beat? Like, people just don't think about that. So like having that goal of the top note, everything else is before it, and the top note lands on the beat. I'm so grateful that you said that.
Oh my God, thank you. Well, I liken it to a lot because I work with dancers a lot, and it's kind of like when you learn a step and you have to hit the downbeat on one. You're not lifting your leg on one. You're lifting your leg in anticipation, so you hit the floor on one. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. So your body is doing the movement and anticipating where that downbeat is going to come. And so I would think of this as like the bottom is kind of like the lift of the leg down to where your foot hits the ground on that E, on that downbeat. Right. So.
Yeah. I can totally see why it's unintuitive, though, because we think of the bass note as being the important thing here, and yet it's not that note that in general we aim for. Of course, we could roll down sometimes, but I find that when I play stride, because I'm going up, I want to roll in that same direction.
Right.
Okay, very cool. Yeah. And so now we're getting arrangement-wise. Thank you for that. We're getting into now 3-note, lower portions, basses, and then 2 notes on the upper portion, but less than the right hand part is filling out that chord too. So you're getting just so much richness between the hands. I'm curious, were those C7s with the 7th? Is that from the original, or is that something that you added?
That's something that I added. I tried to not harmonically change a lot of these arrangements. In some of the other arrangements, I did take some more liberties, but with this, when I can sneak in a 7 and do something that's just a little different, but from the original, I think it just kind of sits there in that, more kind of yeah.
Yeah, cool. All right, should we go to measure 13? Do you want to guide us through what's happening there?
Yeah, so measure 13.
The next system?
Is this
yeah, where that octave part comes in.
Yeah, so this is maybe where the root comes in. So I'm trying to play in the arrangement. I think it's the trombones or the lower brass that have that bom bom bom, and then there's the French horns that are building. So I kind of thought of to break it up and have that root basis, because we've had this whole tension building. And then have it bring it down in the left hand. Bum, 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 bum. And then here, I go down to an A7 chord. So that's a little bit of a rearrangement back to that C7 chord. That kind of together in octaves.
Nice. Yeah, I love how much you're doing with kind of the same materials, just using them in slightly different ways to create that build. I have
Thanks,
another stride question that is coming to mind, which is that it sounds like, I'm not sure, maybe you're pedaling beat 1 to beat 2, and then having beat 2 be staccato, and then beat 3 to beat 4. Is that what you would generally do on this arrangement? You wrote staccatos on beats 1 and 3.
Let me see. You know what? I think I am, and this is again my in not being as precise and clear in these arrangements because I'm still working on them. But is it? I am pedaling. Pedaling right there down because I'm playing this note, so it can still. It's not when I'm playing one note pedaling. It doesn't feel as washy, I guess, to my ear.
Yeah. But like in general, when you're playing, are you pedaling the bass notes to the chords? No, you're just playing it all without pedal.
Yeah, usually without pedal there.
And generally in stride, what do you find yourself doing with the pedal?
Generally in stride, I do not use the pedal.
Okay, not at all.
I mean, that's not totally true. I think because I've also, for a lot of years, played drums with my feet and piano with my hands. So I think it's kind of given me a skewed version of proper pedaling, if that makes sense. Like if I'm playing Joplin, I'll use pedal, like there.
Oh, like just for that, like for an accent.
Like a little bit in there, Like there, holding that, because if I don't, it's, you kind of need that, and the music has it held through the end of that measure, so. But if I'm just playing with piano, like if I just have drums on my, a hi-hat on my left foot, bass drum on my right foot, it sounds a lot different, so I use the kind of the wash of the cymbal to take care of that pedaling. But that's maybe a little bit more for...
Yeah, so, but you're not going, you're definitely not doing that. Would you consider that incorrect, or you'd say like, that doesn't quite sound right?
It doesn't, to my ear, sound right. I think it's, I find in students that I work with, trying to take away the pedal is helpful because it will get you to play more legato. Is that a word? More legato. And I find that the pedal in stride you have to use more sparingly. Otherwise, things it starts being more. It's not as bouncy. Like stride and ragtime has a lot of syncopation. Like that's a da 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 da. And if you're pedaling, I find that gets more washed or lost in that.
So like a student would do well to start from 0 and then add pedal, maybe just on something that they want to emphasize or accent or to taste.
Yeah, or something. If you have if it's held, I find if you're moving from here and then your next part has you traveling on a whole other part of the piano, like in Maple Leaf Rag, where you're up here and then you for there. That's a great pedal section because it's you're kind of rolling those chords. Sure. But I find right before that, holding it so it allows your hands to move to the right place. But when you're in a melodic section. Like there, I didn't use any pedal, and I'm trying to work on making it be as legato as possible.
Which brings me to my next question: is how do you, have it not be too fast? Right. What do you do pianistically, or if you had a student who was too bouncy?
I find if it's too bouncy, I try to go slow first. I think a really great technique for learning stride piano is always just going slow and work on accuracy. And you can watch your hand. And then, so I'm watching, I'm going kind of medium tempo, but you can go as slow as you need to. And I'm not going, I'm holding it longer.
Holding things as long as you possibly can, right? And still making the motion.
Yes. So you get used to holding a little bit longer than you, so when you, it adds, you're just adding that ever little so bit more of time that you're holding the note.
Yeah.
That I find really brings out the stride.
And then I noticed that you were looking away at a certain point. Is that part of your training too?
Yes, exactly. That was where I was getting to next. Is that so? I'll have it, and then I'll look away.
Wow, you're really accurate.
So I just get really into where I know, and then sometimes I feel like my fingers almost is kind of like reading Braille. So they kind of like touch places where I know they're gonna land. It's I don't know how to like it floats. It's not bouncing over the keys like this. It's a little more kind of like this kind of motion of like you're stirring.
So do you find like you're actually touching the black keys as you move over them?
Sometimes
Wow, you're so flat.
So flat. Right.
And then as you're playing, do you feel like just as a safeguard, you're looking at your hands at all to judge that whether you're going to hit the chord right, or like you're so confident in the feel that you don't really need to look at your hands and that might distract you?
I think I like to get to a point where I don't want to have my eyes distract me. I think if I'm in a place where I'm not as comfortable with the music or the key, because in piano, whenever if we're playing something in A flat, it feels a lot different than G or C.
Yeah.
And I find even playing stride, playing in A flats and the flatter keys, or sharps if you want to call them, are almost easier because you have these grooves that they fit in and your hands can, right?
Right. I was going to say, like, the technique of hovering over the black keys and using this Braille doesn't work so well if you're going back and forth in C.
No. Yes, C and that, like if you're in C or G or even, well, C mainly, right? Is that you don't have that. But I'll have like, I'll try to.
I can I do that like as a party trick and I'm like 80% good, but you are confident and accurate. That's impressive.
Thank you. It takes time. And again, like going slow. Another technique I think we talked about a little bit, which is if I'm having troubles with a passage, and this can be in stride piano or just any type of passage that you're working on, whether it be classical or some kind of run or something, is breaking sections into like not paying attention to the rhythm, but breaking them into little chunks, and the goal is accuracy and speed. So what I mean by that is, let's say I'm trying to do this.
Yeah, here, can I be your student for a second? Let's do this together.
Yes.
So yeah, go ahead, demonstrate or talk me through it.
Okay, so let's go back to the stride for Maple Leaf.
Okay.
Right? So that's, if we're in time, it would be right?
Yeah.
So
more or less.
Exactly. So what I would do is, so that was wrong. So I'm doing it, I'm grouping it in two. So I'm doing these two together. Next two notes. Next two notes. and then I'll group it in threes.
You're doing those fast.
Yeah.
Wait. Let me try the twos before you go to threes.
Yeah, go.
I'm already getting nervous.
Yeah.
Ooh. Should I be able to do that without looking? I feel like I'm doing a lot of looking.
You can look to start off like that. Like the whole goal is you can look, you can do what you want. It's 100% accuracy, and as fast as you can do it by doing it correctly. So if this is fast for you, if this is fast you can go, that's great. But if you can go, that's great too. So it's about accuracy, right? And then
can I ask you a question? I'm sorry.
Totally.
I just have so many questions about stride that my students ask me, and then I'm like, I don't really know the answer because I only fake stride piano. Are you do you ever think that you're tracking more your thumb side of your hand or your pinky side of your hand, or you don't think that way at all?
I don't think I've ever really thought about it, but I think I hit like right in this area here on my thumb.
Some of my problem is that I'll like get those two notes and the pinky will maybe not be as firm as it should be, and like not be able to hit, especially on those black keys. Like I feel like it's easier for the pinky on the white keys.
Yep.
Or maybe you play it with 4-2-1. I don't know. That might actually be easier even.
Yeah.
You do 4-2-1.
I think I do 5-2-1.
You do 5-2-1.
Yeah. But
I feel like it's hard to hit that chord cleanly fast because I'm coming in at like an angle.
Yeah, totally. And that's the other part of it is, going slow for accuracy, but then changing the rhythm so you go.
Yeah. I love that.
I'm gonna
right.
really think about it. Yeah.
Yeah. What comes next?
Exactly.
No. This is hard to do without the music in front of you.
Right. Exactly. It helps with the music, and that's why like if I were to break down learning a harder stride section of the arrangement of the bond thing, I would go
Yeah. And is it fair to say that in that time that you're waiting, are you like imagining the space between those two notes and like kind of previewing, okay, here's where I need to go from and to? Like, are you orienting yourself in that time between?
Exactly. Yeah, I'm taking.
Like that's not
time.
dead time. You're using it and you're not playing till you're ready.
Yeah, exactly. I'm using it to think like, okay, what's going to be my next? What am I doing next? Preparing for that.
Yeah.
It's just like if you were to like do a ropes course or something, and you have to do these, leap to the next thing, or you're going to fall or something. You're sitting there and you're like, okay, I got it. Am I going to use my right foot or my left foot? And what am I going to do after that? So it's kind of setting myself up for that. Like my mind is thinking, okay, just to that, what's coming next?
Yeah. And you said you do threes too. So I want to hear that.
Yeah, threes will be like.
Yeah, you want to show me on James Bond? Yeah.
Sure, I'll do.
You got like measure 21.
Yeah, is that one? Is that one?
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. So I'm just going to do just the left hand in this.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be like. And I can't. Like that's a hard one for me. And because my hands are, for all this, small finger pianists, I will, a lot of times I'll smash that D too because I just can't.
Yep.
Especially if I'm doing this exercise.
All right, let me try the threes. Oof. Almost.
Nice.
Ah.
Nice.
That's like it feels. It's very athletic. Like it
It
feels like
is.
like it has the same feeling as doing a good workout. It
It
takes a lot
does.
of
And
focus and control.
exactly. And then when you change that, so you have like the one be here and then 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3,
Oh, I
one,
see.
two,
Uh-huh.
three, and then 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Then when you do that, and I try to do it like I'll I, I'll do it in either groups of three, where I'll have to do it 3 times perfectly in a row with that sequence. And when I do that, then I can move on to the next one. If I screw up on like the second or third one, I have to redo it. So I have at least 3 consistently in a row that are accurate. So you're training yourself for good habits, because there's so many times if you're doing it and making mistakes that you're practicing the mistakes, you know. So really training for that correct way in which to play, I find helpful.
Great. I'm gonna ask you one more question. Then I want to hear one more arrangement, and then I'll let you go. Is that okay? You've been so
Perfect.
generous
Yes.
with your time and your knowledge.
Totally. No, thank
And
you.
I want to say, in case anybody's leaving the video early, I can't imagine that you're going to put a link where people can get some of these scores.
Yeah, I'm gonna give
Okay.
away the James Bond theme um, at my website, and there'll be a link that Jeremy will put down there, and the other song "From Russia with Love," which is the second movie in the Bond franchise, for
Great.
you to have fun with.
Nice. Okay, so my question is about tension, and this is a real question both for my students and from me, which is that when after I try to play fast stride for too long, even if I'm practicing it for too long, boy, my arm gets tired, and sometimes I feel myself getting really sore. How do you have any tips or tricks to avoid that fatigue? I mean, it is kind of fatiguing because you're moving a lot, but what do professional like stride players do?
That's a great question. I find that, if especially if you're in pain, stop and take a break. And different, I like, well, rub my arms too, just kind of rub the forearms. Um, those basic like techniques, like gentle stretching. Um, I find though that like when you're in it, let's say you can't do that, and you're in a situation where, oh, no, I've got to push through, is really just trying to just relax and almost put your mind in a place where, you're just putting that energy out of just being like water, and it being loose, and thinking that, and not feeling like, oh my god, it's so tight, it's, because then you're kind of pushing more of that energy into your hand, and it's like, oh my god, I'm just blah, 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 when you can just be like, okay, I'm just gonna relax into it. I find that helps me, when I can remember to breathe, and the proper techniques of that we learn as pianists. And um, I don't know if that's helpful, but that's, I think, where my mind goes about that question with tension.
Cool. Yeah, and I see like the way that you're playing so flatly, and I mean that in a very positive, good sense. Flat can have weird connotations, but
Yeah.
like it doesn't look like you're moving down at all, right? Which I know, like I think that can be a barrier for some people playing stride. Is like I'm going down, 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 and that's going to tire you out really fast. So like
Yeah.
one of the I think it's like one of those magic secrets of piano playing is to press a key down without ever really going down, which like easier said than done. But like in your overall motion, like you're catching those notes on the way, but it doesn't seem like your arm, elbow, forearm, wrist, no part of that contraption is going down, 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 down. It's kind of like
Yeah.
across, 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 and the fingers are kind of catching on the way, or not on the way, but you kind of know what I mean. Like it seems like that, and I don't actually know these things. I'm trying to put things together, but it feels like that's an important part of not getting, of not tiring yourself out, is not going down, down, down all the time.
Yeah, I think the down, and because this is, I mean, even if you just do this, it's a lot more
It's
work than
tiring.
this, you know.
Yes. And when you
Um,
did that demonstration, I was thinking about that because when you're like, oh, just be water, just relax. I'm like, oh yeah, he's just moving across, like he's doing a breaststroke or something.
yeah, Yeah.
Uh,
It, you don't want to, when you're, smashing or something like this, it's just, there's so much energy and tension, and you're using so many muscles and um, tension, really, that can definitely happen with this. But when you move it more, and circular motions too, I'm sure you've probably done,
hmm hmm
variations like this, like your hands are moving more in circles as opposed to like
mm,
lines that are just really like, or you know, not kind of circles like this, but more fluid and more
yeah.
ovals, maybe
Do you think
circular.
about like, do you play stride like that
I
more?
don't. I mean, I think when I
No,
was,
it's just directly across.
yeah, I think more like, or when I was practicing more Chopin and taking classical lessons, and you're doing some of those waltzes that are having, da da doom da da. I find those really help in stride playing.
Mm.
And there you're using a lot more, especially in waltzes, like pedal. But yeah, in some classical repertoire, I'm sure you run into this too. But having that, more of a fluid motion, would you say, in when you're playing,
Yeah, no, I think that's beautiful. Absolutely.
if
And
that
I,
makes
yeah,
sense?
I love the feeling of a circle for a phrase. Like, rather than, you don't want it to have an end. In a
Yeah,
lot of styles, is it's like it's keeping going. It doesn't have endpoints. So to have that underlying feeling of a circle, I think is really valuable. I like that
yeah.
advice. Yeah. All right, you
Thanks. Yeah,
want to
that
play a little
was.
bit of from? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off
Oh, no, no,
there.
no. I just learned that from one of my classical teachers growing up, and that just always stuck with me as far as like the fluidity of and hand motions being like that. Even just kind of going through and mentally playing the music, but not actually touching not pressing down on any of the keys, but playing it in your head, and just thinking about the motions of your hands can be a great just practice technique.
Thank you for that. All right, you're gonna play some of from Russia with love for us.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll hear however much you're willing to share. And just a reminder, donate to Tony's Indiegogo campaign. We'll put that link in the description of the video. He's written some really cool music, so support him if you can.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Thanks for your generous
Yeah.
time. Let's
Thank you so
play us
much,
out.
John. All right.
Yeah, that was
Thanks.
so cool, Tony.
Thank you so much, Jeremy.
much. My
I just
pleasure.
realized
Thanks.
in that stride, I use a lot of pedal because it's such a slower rag. So, as opposed to something that's more bouncy, not so much pedal, but that I used a lot more pedal because it's so legato. So,
Such a great arrangement. I can't wait to hear the whole album. I'm really excited about it.
Thank you so much,
congratulations. Yep.
Thank you.
Tony Kieraldo, everybody. Support his campaign. Thanks for watching.